she was protecting them. She was protecting her daughters, right? And she said, you know what? I'm going to break that cycle. I'm not going to have my daughters go through the same thing. So I need to just, tough it up and be the best mom that I could be.
How have you been feeling?
Exhausted. I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning, girl.
You still can't sleep?
My back is not letting me sleep. It's hurting so bad. Plus, I'm still recovering from that stupid insomnia, which I still struggle with, but more now because my back is kicking my ass.
How are you feeling during the...
I do feel bad for Roxanne because, like I said, it's like what she's going through right now, regardless of how everybody's feeling, and of course, her choices affected everybody around her, including her daughters. Recovery is just not easy, right? So I do feel bad for her. Just even looking at her and seeing her at the photo shoot, she just looks tired, right? And yeah, so I'm empathetic to that.
photo shoot? I felt like you were a little distant.
I was tired. But tired and distant are two different things.
You know what, Brittany? You know what? Brittany, I have been, in my last video, I have been on your side in the sense of like, I understand where you're coming from. Like, sometimes it comes across as like excuses and stuff. But looking at her, you should know your mom. She is tired. Like, there's not an excuse happening here. I know when it comes to addiction, you have to be very careful, right? Because sometimes they're just saying that they're tired from the recovery, but they're actually still doing drugs. And I'm not saying that's the case for Roxanne. So I don't blame them for kind of having their eye open and being a little skeptical. They're also protecting themselves, right? But I think Roxanne needs a little bit of grace here in the sense of like, sometimes she's just tired. She's just been through a lot. There's been a lot of changes as well. So I don't appreciate the comment too much of like, this and tired are two different things. I get it, but I can see she's tired, man.
Remember, I was working. I went after work, the drive. It's...
But you're never like that. You were never like that.
The person who I was to the person who I am today is different. My body's still adapting and my body's still adjusting. But I suspect that eventually I will slide into base and I will be normal. But right now, if I'm detached, it's not intentional. If I'm forgetful, it's not intentional, I promise you.
Are you getting therapy?
Yeah. It's just a matter of finding a new normal. That's it.
But what does that look like? How do we get there?
We
What are
don't
the
know.
steps?
This is the first time we're experiencing it, so we just have to ride the wave. And
you know what? I need to pause because I am not appreciating the attitude. Again, I don't think the attitude's intentional from both Brittany and Brianna here. But it's like, how do we know? Like, when are you going to be normal? Like, it comes across a little bratty. Like, are you fixed now? Like, no, recovery is a long process. And she actually did it pretty quickly, considering she was on narcotics for so many years, right? Like, she's a long journey ahead of her, and maybe that hasn't sunk into Brianna and Brittany yet, which is fair because this kind of was just sprung on them. But it's just like, I get it. Like, they want their mom, but I do have faith that she will be back to like the normal, like her normal self, but she's just not her normal self right now because her body's adjusting. You're getting rid of so many drugs out of your system. She's not going to be feeling well. She's going to be irritated, irritable, all those things. And like she said, it's not personal. And that's why if you've seen my previous video on this topic with them, that whole blow up, I could just tell it was just like, Roxanne was going through her own shit show, so she didn't want to hear anything from Brittany, and the attitude of like, because now you're going to throw, hey, I potentially might not want you at my wedding, to someone who's going through a really, really hard time and is making this change for them ultimately, right? And for herself, of course. So it does seem like from her perspective, a little like slap in the face of like, guys, like, can you just either support me or don't, type of deal, which, I could understand as well. As controversial as that might be, that's just my opinion.
hope for the best and figure it out.
Yeah, Ma, I just want you to be like mentally okay. If you can, get your therapy and get better, because I don't want this version of you, a version that's distant, a version that, you know, I already see in your body language, you don't want to hear it, but it's the truth.
No, no, no. Listen, I don't want that either, Brittany.
Yeah, I want you at my wedding. I just need you to get, you know, your stuff together. I did not like giving you that boundary, but like to protect myself, I had to. Because I never thought I was gonna
I
get
don't want
married,
to
and
feel
I
like
am.
what I
So
felt on the photo shoot on your wedding. Trust me.
I don't want that energy.
I'm doing everything that I can. I'm doing my infusions. I'm going to my therapies. I'm going taking my medications. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, but it's still gonna take my body sometimes to heal. I'm just asking for some grace because right now, it's still very hard.
It's a hard pill to swallow, that knowing that I may not get the same mom back that I once had.
I wanted her to work on her issues, but I didn't realize that meant she may completely change.
I hope and pray that things will get better.
Okay, well, I'm trying not to be judgmental, but girl, going through that, it's called a journey and a process for a reason. You are going to change. You're not going to be the same person, and that is the whole point. But I do know what she meant of, like, you know, she wants her fun, bubbly mom back. But what I think they're not really understanding, and Roxanne has said it before, of like, the only reason she was able to be so bubbly and like happy-go-lucky was because she was on drugs, right? Like, she was a single mom. She went through a huge trauma in her childhood. The father, you know, of Brianna and Brittany, I know they're different, but whoever the man is that gave her this trauma in the past was obviously very, very abusive. And there needs to be a little bit of compassion here, that like what she did for Brittany and Brianna was, she was protecting them. She was protecting her daughters, right? And she said, you know what? I'm going to break that cycle. I'm not going to have my daughters go through the same thing. So I need to just, you know, tough it up and be the best mom that I could be. And she did that. But no human being can just flip that switch and without some sort of something, right? We all have our thing. It might be pop. It might be food. It might be cigarettes. It might be vaping. For her, it was drugs, right? That's what got her through the day. And so I think now that her kids are kind of older, she's like, okay, I need to kind of drop this bomb and maybe go and take care of myself now, right? Which is a lot. Like, she has, I think she said it in the previous my previous video as well, where I talked about it, where she said, look, I have an empty nester, right? And it's a lot. Like, I'm going through recovery now. I have an empty nester, and all, like, that's even just someone who's not on drugs. Any parent having their child leave their home, now is getting married, starting their new life. That is a process, and she's dealing with that on top of Brittany setting all new boundaries, saying, hey, I might not want you there if you don't fix your shit, right? It's a lot to take in, and I do feel for her, but I also feel for everybody in this case when it comes to addiction and recovery. It's just not easy, and it impacts everybody, right? But I really like Roxanne. I think that they just need to give her a little bit of grace. However, I don't condone some things that she's done in the past with the lying, and I understand it's from protection. But you know, good for Brittany for still, you know, I think that's what I was trying to say in the last video as well, where Brittany is still able to set that boundary with her without talking to her like an attack, right? Because that's just not going to do anything. And then everyone's just going to be defensive and fighting and screaming, and you go nowhere. And then you potentially end up with no relationship, which would be heartbreaking, over something so small like how to talk to each other. You know what I mean? So good for them. I think they're on the right path. And yeah, I can't wait to see Brittany's wedding, and I hope all goes well. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for watching.